hey, we're worried about the future, we're worried about social media, we're worried about AI, we're worried about free speech. You know, some crazy white guy in Minneapolis got us engaged and involved in the process, then I think, other people should be just as engaged and involved too, and it's pretty easy to do.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, and welcome to IDH TV and this very special clip show for all the robot fighters at South by Southwest.
All right, it's good to see y'all. Welcome to the new season of the IDH podcast.
Chapter 1, Our Story. The IDH's Black Mirror meets Dead Poets Society origin story is Pretty Bananas.
Why should regular folks support the IDH right now, or why can they trust that we are like nonpartisan and looking out for everyone and trying to educate kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think that now more than ever, I think people are starting to realize like how much these issues actually impact them, especially considering, like I've heard people say stuff about like my phone is listening to me, or like, I just hit agree on the terms and conditions. And like, I don't think that people, I think it was easy to just take like the new tech and be like, okay, this is cool. But now like we're starting to realize like, yeah, like we appreciate these digital tools, but at the same time, like we want like our own privacy, and like we don't want, to be overthrown or our information out there. So I think that's one of the things that even recently, like I've started to hear more people care about that.
Privacy for all, period.
Since we mostly communicate and interact in the digital realm, data has surpassed oil as the most valuable resource. For years now, many of the richest companies in the world have been collecting our health data without considering the consequences for individuals. And in the wake of the Supreme Court's confounding Dobbs decision, which unnecessarily revoked our constitutional right to medical privacy, these companies are harvesting even more intimate and sensitive health data, including information about periods and menstrual cycles, heat sensors to figure out who you are and when you are ovulating, and geolocation services so they can harass you while you're talking to your doctor. They track your data through your personal apps, wearables, and search history. They sell or give this information to third parties, including the cops, state officials, political parties, universities, the federal government, and marketing companies.
Wait, what? Are you telling me that tech companies and info brokers are taking my wife and kids' intimate status and putting it out there? I'm going to go find him, and I'm going to chew him out. I need to talk to his manager.
Welcome to Midweek Update. I'm the white guy, Jake Asham.
And I'm the not-so-white guy, Carter Marshall. Tonight we're talking about health data privacy, two words that go as good together as Ted Bundy and Kristen Mingle.
I am pro-life, pro-woman, pro-privacy, and pro-America. I hope and pray that the politicians in America will decide to protect the medical privacy data of its citizens. In America.
And I think that we have such a unique approach to this, especially like coming from like so many different people are like right now on this call as well. And like we're all coming from different places and different like careers and different, even within the IDH, right? We have education, we have policy, like we have all art, like we have all these things that come together. And I always remember like, being able to like connect like tech with like the human side. And I thought that was always like super powerful, because I think that that's important. And like we either want to be like, yes, we're going to advance in this tech world, or we're going to get the best AI, whatever, and like we're going to feed it all this information so it can start doing more for us. Or, it's like no AI. And I feel like we found that great balance of like being able to like, how can we regulate this so that it can serve us and not us serve it? Hopefully not, right? Hopefully we're not past that point. So I think that like the free speech thing, I think that's one of the biggest angles too that we have right now. Like, how is this going to look like in court? Like, how can this turn against us? Like, not to be scary by any means, but just like, how could this potentially turn against us? Like, can I get canceled for something that a text message that I sent on accident that like Siri heard, and like now, I want to be a school board member and I can't anymore because they heard what I said, or whatever it may be. So
the idea of forgiveness in social media is the topic du jour in Aaron McCain's public relations course at North Central University.
When you're looking at a room full of 20-year-olds who are scared to death about how they could ever move forward, you start thinking, like we do in a lot of countries and with a lot of things in criminal justice, we got to start thinking about expungement and the right to be forgotten and the right to forgive one another.
So Definitely, like, I think that free speech is important. And I, like you said, it's these issues, like almost constitutional issues that have been around for so long. But it's like, just because it is the digital world, like, I think that, like, we need to treat it as something that's more tangible. And I think that you've done a great job of, like, those axes and connecting those different things and, like, thinking about it critically and analyzing these policies. I mean, it's been phenomenal to see, like, just even middle school kids, those lessons that we did, like, they can connect the dots and be like, okay, this works, this doesn't, because of this, you know, is violating whatever, this is inhumane, or, you know, this makes sense. So I think that if middle school kids can do it, like, and college students right now in this room could do it, like, we can definitely, you know, pitch that for those people who actually have the power to hopefully be able to do something. Like, we got to regulate this. Like, there has to be laws and there has to be legislation. And it's ridiculous that up until this moment, like, there isn't. And something really needs to be done, especially for our kids. I'd say, like, they need that security and that safety. And, like, we need to fix this.
Tonight, you'll hear the story of one man who was wrongfully arrested. His story is raising new questions about whether the program is putting innocent men and women in police custody.
Robert Williams, who has no criminal history, was wrongly arrested for the crime on his front lawn in front of his wife and young daughters.
I hope you don't think all black people look alike.
Arisa and Micah, what are you worried about right now with the world and tech and all that stuff? Do you still kind of worry about that stuff?
I personally, like, I just feel like I can't be the only person that's tired. Like, tired of misinformation and tired of grandpa posting this AI image asking for likes, and, like, how do I explain this to him?
Tired of algorithms discriminating against you?
Algorithmic discrimination, mass surveillance, cancel culture, free speech, hate speech, and the loss of privacy and due process.
As parents, pastors, and citizens, all of us, Christians and non-Christians, Democrats and Republicans, we all know something is very wrong and very dangerous that is happening.
Yeah.
Like, how do we find a better way to say, like, yeah, we're not the only ones that are, like, tired of feeling like we can't connect on this human level, and, like, we almost don't have a choice with how much, like, social media and how much information is being thrown at us, but we do have a choice with how we receive it and how we research that and how we regulate that to make it more understandable for not just us, but for different generations to have a better communication.
What is neighbors not numbers? Most folks don't even understand what an algorithm is, let alone how algorithms are already replacing human judgment in inaccurate, discriminatory, and unconstitutional ways that are already affecting citizens of all walks of life. Which is why the IDH has spent the last 18 months building diverse, bipartisan coalitions of academics, advocates, lawyers, programmers, politicians, advocates, and educators to help communities and companies get on the same page when thinking and talking about algorithmic assessment, regulation, and reform. We call this Neighbors Not Numbers.
I think my generation, especially, like, our generation, are people that are in the depths of, like, the height of social media and are seeing this climb of AI and technology and how it's been, like, learning from you about, like, AI, and then here we go, like, Chat GPT is, like, easily accessible to anybody, and I'm like, wow, it's happening. And it's something that's just, like, part of everyday life, but we're also just kind of, like, I feel like I'm just kind of tired. Like, I'm tired of the same things happening and the same rhetoric being pushed and the same misinformation. I think resources are really helpful. I mean, like, right now, like, this couldn't be a better time. Like, resources are so important, and I feel like even just researching, it's hard for me to research just, like, policy and, like, me going into voting and, like, figuring stuff out, and what do I, like, stand on. I want to see, like, real policy, and I don't want to see people, like, twice, 3 times my age arguing on the internet. I'm tired of it. I don't care.
Chapter 2. Why everyone needs to break out of their filter bubbles.
I gotta start talking in my work, because I always talk, even in my work, I always talk about politics. I always talk about theology. Like, I love discussing all these things, but I think in my case, I have to do a better job of helping people understand that actually our theological differences and our ideological differences, whatever those may be, they don't have a much of a negative effect as technology. I feel like I need to do a better job of helping people recognize that actually technology is the thing that it might bring the best of humanity, but it also brings out the worst of humanity.
Both sides are worried about our digital rights being violated. They just get angry about different things. The IDH is unique because we unite all citizens against technology that, by design, is dividing us.
Personally, how I always explained it was like going to a Christian school, you kind of like, you understand the environment and know that some things are just very PG. There's a lot of things that we just keep surface level and we don't talk about. And we were living in a not PG world, in a not PG city, with a lot of not PG things happening. And we were able to come to your class and say, this is a shit show, and not be judged for it. And it's the first time I felt like I had a voice to say that, and also heard other people saying it, and was able to think more critically about what we believed and what was going on. And so I think it was just a contrast to someone standing on a stage and reading from scripture and telling you what to think and how to say and whatever, versus, no, what do you think about this? And why is this making you upset? And why is this hurting people that don't look like you and didn't grow up like you? And maybe you should think about that a little bit. And that challenged me the most. And I value that so much still today.
I was going to jump into, I think the other thing that sometimes, and I think maybe this is what you're hinting at too, is like, and kind of what Shay and Arisa were saying, it's like, when you're going to a Christian school in the middle of downtown Minneapolis, like there's not a lot of room for disagreement. Like, and not even so much not a lot of room, but there's just not a lot of uniqueness in that, right? Like the reality is like our school is full of like, or former schools, most of us, I think, is full of a lot of, white people from very rural or suburban areas that don't really get a lot of variety in the life that they live. And like, for people who, identify as Christian, like their calling is to like love people and like help the people who are the most vulnerable in our society. And I think like probably what happened realistically when you came to North Central was like, whether it was white guilt or something else, like a lot of these kids just felt called to like help these people, right? Like it was like, oh, I can't just sit by and not do anything,
The combination of the social credit system and the crackdown on religious activities could spell disaster for many people in China. It is possible that the social credit system could one day recognize unauthorized religious activities as negative behavior and alter people's social credit scores as a result. This is not fake news. China is creating a machine which could almost impossibly limit unauthorized forms of religious expression.
And I think that's what made it probably a little bit different, right? Is like a lot of these people just felt compelled to help because it was something that was real, like a real world effect on everyday lives. And so, and also I would say like looking at this group, we're kind of a band of misfits. And like,
oh no, it's an island of misfit toys, man.
Yeah.
Like that is what this is. I mean, like, no doubt.
All right, kids, let's talk algorithms. Over here. Hi, I'm a sales rep from the IDH. That's the Institute for Digital Humanity. And if you're being priced by an algorithm or know someone who is, I have a product for you.
Yeah, and that's like what also made like our group of people at IDH unique is like we are also anomalies at North Central, and a primarily white like Christian rural school where a lot of kids are homeschooled. I think like again like we are all anomalies of that. Like Jean is not white, she's Hispanic, she did grow up in Iowa, but like her lifestyle was and the way she was raised and her worldview is a lot different, right? Like Shay has two moms, like that obviously changes your perspective a lot, especially coming from that to a Christian school. We were a band of misfits within a school that was technically a misfit in the city that we're based in and the state that we're based in. And so like the natural desire to help people because that's what we were like driven to do by our faith or by our morals, I think is what makes it work. Like what makes IDH work is like this like intense desire to help people.
In an article written by Corrine Ramey of the New York Wall Street Journal, she talks about an algorithm that helps prosecutors decide if a criminal should be convicted of a crime or not. It compares the crime that they have committed to other crimes that have been committed by other convicts and how likely they are to do certain things, such as committing the crime again or doing something as simple as just showing up for court. I think this is dangerous and very cruel to view human through such a lens as this. I have a brother that's been in prison for the last 5 years. When he went into prison, he was very one-track minded and thought only his opinion mattered. While he's been in prison, he found the Lord. He has a relationship with God now. He actually does a Bible study with a peer. He's gone through treatment, and he's actually become a mentor at the facility. I couldn't imagine what it would be like if, when he had court, if they were to look at a piece of paper that spits out a score from an algorithm that believes if he should get out or not. He's literally told me before that he looks absolutely terrible on paper. It doesn't reflect all the good that has been produced in him, and an algorithm won't show that for him or for someone else.
Chapter 3. This is the make or break moment for post-digital America. The election on Tuesday will be spicy no matter who wins, which is why the IDH story of conservative, liberal, Christian, Muslim, and Jewish Americans coming together is the story that America desperately needs to hear right now. Plus, they have 20 years of proven disinformation solutions that are scalable for any organization and can be taught to anyone to keep people safe, connected, and tethered to reality. There's just one tiny problem. Without funding, they will have to close their doors in 10 days.
I think that's really why it's important for people to study the classical thinkers. Why you have to go back to like where did knowledge start? Where like the people who originally started figuring people out, like what did they figure out? And those are the people that no one really listens to anymore. No one goes back to that.
Well, yeah, and I do want to say, and I appreciate you kind of phrasing it that way. Like, you all know, we use rhetoric and narrative theory. So, like, all me and the other profs did was just connect the dots between things that have been around for 2,000 years. So, like, part of the reason everyone's so screwed up right now is they defunded the humanities. Otherwise, if it was 20 years ago, there'd be 50 of me, and we wouldn't have these problems.
And like, there's one thing, which is like putting a Band-Aid on something. And then there's the people that actually figure out like where the sickness is coming from, and like that's what the classical thinkers did. And if you can understand like concepts and theories like they did, and like learn where they were like getting their knowledge from, I mean, nothing that's going on is really gonna scare you. And like I was gonna like mention that as to like why the IDH is beneficial is because it's kind of like everyone can just like relax, because like this is not something that anyone should really be that like surprised about. Like we are the ones, like people think that it's really, really hard to like come up with a solution to something. Like that's like putting a Band-Aid on something is the easy part. Figuring out how to apply like what we've already learned about people to the like super evolved situation, that's the hard part. And that's what we figured out how to do. We've like figured out how to use like all of the language and everything we've learned about people thus far and be like, hey, everything that's happening right now, like there's a lot of things that are super unique about it that like will really scare you, but the way that you already know how to think can help you through it. Let us just show you that we've already connected the dots. Like you don't need to panic. And like that's what I think that like the IDH does really well.
But that's where we are. Your fellow citizens who support the other party aren't just wrong, they're heretics who have to be destroyed. Political identities have become stronger than religious ones, stronger even than racial. 94% of adults are now cool with interracial marriage. It's inter-party marriage that's a deal breaker for a majority of Republicans and Democrats who don't want their kids marrying someone who belongs to the other.
We see the world from a completely different worldview, right and left. It's coming down to they define truth differently. And I think a lot of that is in conjunction with the postmodernist thought that there is no absolute truth. And I think that also can be related to what we've learned about the filter bubble, which is just perpetuating our idea that we can create our own truth in reality.
I feel like if we could really help, starting with like students and kids in K through 20, like if we can help them understand how to be digitally literate, I think we have some hope for the future. And I want to say that anybody could learn digital literacy, but I feel like I've been struggling with it myself, even sometimes, like getting on my own Facebook, like trying to figure out like what algorithm do I have right now on TikTok, or I'm kind of a big Theo Von fan, and I've been listening to like JD Vance on there, and I'm like, this sounds interesting. But then I hear The Breakfast Club, and I'm like, this sounds interesting. And even as a doctoral student, like I'm trying to analyze like who's telling the truth here? What does this look like? And I can't even imagine someone that maybe hasn't been exposed to this type of critical thinking, how they're struggling to figure out what is true or what is the closest to your truth. I guess now maybe that's the question, or it could be. I really don't know. So I can't imagine like even like having a partner who also I would say is pretty digitally literate. Like we can have great conversations. But I'm wondering, like, what are conversations that other people are having when they watch those podcasts with Theo Von, or when they listen to this person, or watch a 5-second clip of one of the candidates. And I feel like the answer really is in like helping our like future generation, you know, have that literacy and be able to like dissect the things that they see online, because it really only gets scarier and scarier. Like you think you're looking at comments about somebody being angry, and those comments make you angry because they said something you don't agree with, but like maybe that's a bot, like maybe it's not even real, like maybe they're trying to stir up some of that, you know, commotion in the comment section. And it's easy if you don't understand that to not be upset with it. Like it's hard to take kind of like a balanced view and like take a step back and be like, well, maybe like we're being pinned against each other and like we're not even realizing it. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that like this election has been really hard. It's like you listen to this, you listen to that, you can read up on, you know, I like to read just the raw like legislative sessions. Like I like to listen to that.
I'm also here in my capacity as a Minneapolis citizen and a former resident of Ms. Vita's ward until a bullet came flying through my window last Halloween, missing my head by 4 feet, but hitting the part of my brain where my PTSD lives and basically shattering my life. So as somebody with family members who are police and who is a victim of crime, I'm very sympathetic to our police trying to do the best they can in a city that is a bit on fire. But here is the thing. There is no challenge in this century that this country is facing that is greater than the threat of our civil rights being eroded by this technology. It is unfortunate that my conservative friends are good on privacy but often can't connect the dots, and it's unfortunate that my liberal friends are good on racial equity and discrimination but don't understand how any gathering of data that can be correlated to protected statuses such as race, class, gender, religion, who you vote for, who you associate with, what church you go to, what race you are, doesn't accidentally become discrimination. It by programmed default will become discrimination. The data to discrimination pipeline must be fought at every instance. This is our moment to stand up as a city. We already did the right thing passing the statewide ban on warrantless surveillance. We already did the right thing banning racist facial recognition technology. Don't betray the work this city is doing ahead of the consent decree and with the world watching by rolling back our civil rights in this completely, frankly, uneducated process, because I'm a nerd with a coalition, an international coalition of nerds who gets paid to study this stuff. Y'all don't. Don't do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I like to listen to and read the transcripts of whatever's going on the Supreme Court, or whatever news story I hear that sounds interesting or sounds fishy. I'm like, I like to actually go to the source, but not everybody knows how to do that. And I feel like we need to teach people how to do that. And maybe then we can have a better chance at a civil future, maybe like a bright one, maybe where we don't like have another civil war and can like move forward and like, you know, have a equitable place and like a place where I want to have kids.
Folks, We are facing the defining moral and political battle of our lifetime, and we don't have a moment to waste.
The IDH, and maybe only the IDH, has the proven bipartisan solutions that can be taught to anyone.
Programmers, attorneys, politicians, advocates, and teachers that can save us from this technological crisis in time.
But fighting robots and the people who act like robots isn't cheap, and it isn't easy, and we need your help.
But with your support, I'm here to tell you, as the IDH always says,
the fight.
The fight. The fight. The fight.
The fight.
The fight.
The fight.
The fight.
The fight.
For a just, free, and sane digital world is not over. And with your help, we will win.
The fight is not over.
The nerds stealing comedian voices seem to only like white men. So, for once being underrepresented is a good thing.
I wish I was friendly, but